Do I speak with my twin, and did she leave as well? I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. So my twin is still Amish, but when we were 17, the two of us actually ran away together. So we used to be really, really close. And when we ran away together that time, we were the first ones in our entire family to ever do that. So we're gone for 2 days, and we're staying at our cousin's house who had left a few years before then. And we're just having the time of our lives. I thought this was my time. This was my way out. I'm never going back. So my cousin is at work. We're hanging out at his house, watching TV, listening to music. And all of a sudden, the phone rings. She's in the kitchen. I'm in the living room. This was back when home phones were still a thing. We didn't have cell phones. She picks up the phone in the kitchen, and I picked up the phone in the living room. I don't say a word, but she does. And I listen to her have this entire conversation with one of our brothers, and he's telling her like how bad it is at home, how hard it is for mom, about the fact that we ran away. And at the end of that conversation, I hear her tell him, I cannot do this. Because it's like someone died when you run away like that. And so she tells him at the end of that conversation, I need you guys to come pick us up. She made that decision for me. I was devastated. I was like, I cannot go back. But I went anyway because I felt like I needed to go because she did. And then the next day, I told her, I said, listen, I'm not staying here. And she's like, yeah, me neither. But fast forward 2 years, when I decide that I'm going to leave, I make that decision. I kind of knew leading up to the day that I made the decision that I was going to be leaving. I just didn't know how. But the day that I made that decision that I was leaving, I also knew that my twin was going to be getting married 6 months later. And when I was thinking about leaving, I realized that if I left that specific day, that I would not be at her wedding 6 months later. So I, for a split second, thought to myself, well, I could stay 6 more months, go to her wedding so that I could be at her wedding, and then leave after that. But I just knew in my heart that if I didn't leave at that point in time when I had that chance, that I would probably never leave. So I left that day, and then I was not at her wedding. I would go visit her. Like after I left, she got married 6 months later. I had seen her a couple times. I was not at her wedding, obviously. And then I would go visit her husband and her family for the first few years after I left. And they started having kids. And one of the times that I was there, her husband ends up telling me, like, you're never allowed to come back and see us. And he didn't want me to visit them. He didn't want his kids to see me the way that I was dressed. And he didn't want me to be like, hey, if Aunt Lizzie could run away and do whatever she wanted to do and not be Amish, then they could do that too. But the reality is they would make that decision on their own and would have nothing to do with me. But I respected his wishes, and I said, okay. So I never went back to visit them at their place ever. At one point, this was about 11 years ago now, my mom had auction, and I was invited home to come to her auction, and almost all the kids were there, and that's the last time that I saw my twin. So I actually hadn't seen her for a few years, and that at that point in time when I was at the auction and I saw her, I just like reflex went up to her, gave her a hug, and they don't do hugs, and I just like forgot, and I went up there, gave her a hug, and she just like stood there with her arms beside her like she didn't know what to do. And then all my cousins were standing over there all in a row, and they're just like staring at me like, what's she doing? She's giving her a hug. That's not right. Like, that's not legal. You're not supposed to do that. So that's the last time I saw my twin. Last time I visited my mom, I asked her how many kids she has, and she has 10 kids. I don't know if she will have more kids or not, but I know that that's the number of kids that she has right now. And it's been almost 11 years. People always ask me if I miss her, and the reality is, I will leave you with this. I've been gone for 19 years, and I haven't seen her for so long. Do I think about her? Absolutely. Do I go, oh my gosh, I miss her, I just want to talk to her? No, and here's the reason why. Our lives are so different. So different now. So I couldn't even like if I were to think about like, oh, I want to just go have a conversation with her, I wouldn't even really know what to say because our lives are so vastly different. So there you have it. That's the story of my twin. I still love her, but I have not seen her in a long time, and I don't know when I will ever see her again.